Are you starting to think about selling your business? If so, will you be able to exit at your peak exit price? The most proven route to achieving the American dream has been tied to having your own business. You start it or buy it and then grow it for years or perhaps even decades. This has been the most common route to creating real wealth and the nest egg needed to live out one's golden years in comfort. IRS data consistently supports this picture. When the time finally comes to sell your business, the marketplace recognizes all the long, hard hours you put into building it, as well as the sacrifices you made for it. Buyers are happy to give you your asking price. Then one day you finally cash out with a big payoff for all your hard work and sacrifice. That's how we all think the story ends. In reality, it rarely does for many small business owners. Unfortunately, the dream often comes to an abrupt end in the selling stage when the owner finally discovers what their business is really worth to buyers. Historically, small businesses have been difficult to sell for a number of reasons. In fact, approximately 80% of them never find a buyer, while the rest usually sell at the lowest possible multiple of earnings. So at the end, when an owner is hoping to cash out his or her nest egg and retire in comfort, they discovered that instead of receiving a big paycheck from a buyer, the best they can hope for is a fire sale on inventory, equipment, and fixtures, followed by shuttering of the business. There are four main reasons why owners miss out on a big payday at selling time. Number one, buyers don't want to buy what's basically a job that comes with a lot of added risk. Number two, small businesses lack the proven value drivers to maximize selling price. Three, owners rarely understand what their business is worth in the marketplace. Four, the pool of buyers is small. Let's take a look at the four main causes behind small businesses not selling well. Number one, buyers don't want to buy what's basically a job that comes with a lot of added risks and responsibilities. Most small businesses are de facto jobs for their owners that tie them down to day-to-day management. In addition, these jobs come with heavy financial burdens and risks. As a result, a few smart buyers are willing to buy a job that comes with all the added pressures of ownership, such as being responsible every month for covering payroll, accounts payable, as well as lease and loan payments. Number two, most small businesses lack proven value drivers. The vast majority of small business owners share one critical weakness. Usually due to time and money constraints, they have never been able to implement the value drivers that help to maximize a business's profitability and selling price. These drivers include efficient and up-to-date operating, accounting, and sales and marketing systems, up-to-date technology, and a managerial tier that can stay on to serve the new owner. These missing or underdeveloped drivers serve to pull valuations down. Number three, owners rarely understand what their business is actually worth in the marketplace. As a result, they normally overestimate what it could sell for, and in rare cases, underestimate. Overestimation quickly scares off serious buyers, while underestimation results in the seller being paid less than they should have been. Owners with unrealistic price expectations are one of the leading causes of small businesses being shuttered instead of sold. Few knowledgeable buyers are willing to stick around to educate them on proper valuation methods. Instead, they just move on to the next opportunity. Number four, the pool of buyers is small. All of the above factors then combine to shrink the pool of buyers down to the financially weakest. This is because corporate buyers have no interest in acquiring small businesses that won't make a noticeable difference on their bottom lines. Likewise, deep-pocketed individual buyers aren't interested in buying mere jobs that come bundled with all the added risks of ownership. What the small business seller is left with then is a small pool of individual prospects who will in most cases struggle to come up with the down payment as well as have few real management skills, if any. Let's take a look at two real-life stories that are typical of what happens when a small business owner decides to exit. Both are true, but with identifying details removed. I call the first story, "There's Nothing to Sell." When I was starting out as a broker, we got a call from a gentleman one day who was interested in selling his company after having built and managed it for over 30 years. Since most owners don't want their employees to know that they are thinking about selling, we agreed to meet at a nearby coffee shop. I went with a senior broker who had worked as a banker in a previous career and could quickly calculate the probable worth of a business in his head. The seller was an elderly gentleman of about 65, give or take a few years, who had started and built a business wholesaling industrial supplies. After the three of us had exchanged a few pleasantries, the senior broker jumped straight into the key questions. How much owner's income is generated by your business? The elderly gentleman replied, about $100,000. The broker then asked him how much he had in inventory. Oh, about $500,000 was the reply. At this point, the broker fell silent for a minute as he crunched the numbers in his head. Finally, he spoke. The best advice I can give you then is to sell the inventory off for $300,000 to $400,000 and then just shut it down. You'll get more that way than if you try to sell it as a going concern. At best, you might be able to expect a multiple of 1.5 to 2 times owner's income. I'll never forget how the old gentleman reacted to this news. He was crushed. You could see him slump down in his chair. It was devastating news. Most likely for years he had fantasized about cashing in on all the decades of hard work and walking away with possibly $1 million in cold hard cash. Then to be told so bluntly that the inventory, at a discounted price, was still worth more than his business must have been devastating. Here's the second story. I call it Retirement is Not an Option. One day I received a call from a small business owner who had a company that performed repair work on motor and sail yachts. Over several years, the owner had built up a nice business for himself, which allowed him to delegate most of the work to teams of laborers. His role had been reduced to 25 to 30 hours per week of managing the business and schmoozing with clients at nearby yacht clubs and marinas. The remainder of the week was spent with his wife. When the call came in, he felt that he was ready to retire and take it easy. He asked us first to come up with a valuation for his business. So I took 3 years of tax returns and statements back to my office and crunched the numbers. The news was not good. The company generated about $125,000 in owner's income, but since he was still only in his mid-50s, any possible selling price would have seen him out of money well before he hit 60. Let me elaborate. Since the couple spent every last dollar of their annual income, they would have found themselves in financial difficulty once the proceeds from the sale were gone. An all-cash selling price based on a 3 times multiple would have resulted in $375,000 in total proceeds, which meant that if they maintained their annual spending at historical rates, the money would have all been gone in 3 very short years. Since he had been hoping to retire, he had visions of a selling price which would have enabled him to live out the remainder of his life in the manner that he and his wife had been accustomed to. Needless to say, he was also stunned by the valuation and had to resign himself to working for many more years. These stories are fairly typical of what frequently happens when someone finally decides to sell their small business. The main takeaway here is that just because someone knows how to build and manage a business doesn't mean that they also understand how to create tangible value that will be of interest to buyers. This is especially true of the elderly gentleman with the distribution company. While he thought of himself as the owner of a viable business which would be attractive to buyers, in reality, to an objective outsider, all he really had was a huge stockpile of dusty, old, slow-turning inventory, which was completely disproportionate to the business's sales. Furthermore, his business was in a stagnant industry with little room for growth, even under younger and more dynamic management. The other owner had a viable business, but the problem lay in its size. Even if he had sold the business for twice the going rate, or $750,000, he and his wife would still have run out of money in 6 years when he was only 61 or 62. What he should have done was find a way to grow the business before selling it, or he could have grown it and stayed on in a substantially reduced role. There's always a solution to every problem. If you'd prefer to have good news rather than bad at selling time, take the peak exit assessment today. It only takes about 20 minutes. Take it today and receive two critically important numbers. First, your peak exit score will let you know how attractive your business is to buyers. Second, the valuation will provide you with an estimated selling price range. Our detailed report will include suggestions for improving your exit score, as well as doubling, tripling, or even quadrupling your potential selling price over the next 24 months. Do it now.